What is up? Time for the long and the short of it. So glad you could join us here on the Sixers Talk podcast, brought to you by Wilmington University. Wilmington Works. Danny Pommells, Noah Levick, our producer Spencer McCurcher, making things happen, pulling strings in the background. Good to be with you guys. Could be worse. Sixers still hanging in fifth place. I thought they've been in fifth place for like the last six pods, Noah. But very tight Eastern Conference race. But a definite chance for them to make up some ground on a six-game homestand. So you think that some of those games will go in their favor, although they got dump trucked by the Cavaliers last night. And you would imagine frustrating loss in Toronto in overtime. They do split those games in a home and home, and then you split with the Cavs. You probably would take that, going into it. No, I mean, assuming that the Cavs would have been, the Raptors would have been full strength, but they weren't, which makes that loss even worse, similar to the Nuggets OT loss. But if you split with home and home with Toronto, and you split a home and home with Cleveland, you probably would take that, going in, no?
Agreed. Yeah. No, I mean, I think just the psychology of it is pretty hard with these mini series, as we've learned over the past 5, 6 years. Oftentimes, if you win that first game, you're not quite as sharp in the second game, and the adjustments that the opponent makes are effective. So, not an easy task for the Sixers. It's on them to come out with much better energy than they did last night, to defend Donovan Mitchell a lot better, and yeah, to be a higher quality team across the board. But I would say on paper they have a good chance to split it, and that would absolutely not be a bad result here. So it's on them to get it done. I will say though, home games for this team are far from a guaranteed win. Right now they're sitting at 10-10 at the X. So not a strength thus far. They've actually been a little bit better on the road. And as you note, 6-game homestand, a chance to change that a little bit and actually accumulate some games over 500 at home. That's certainly the hope here.
You talk about Donovan Mitchell and the way he was shooting the basketball last night. And listen, we get to enjoy watching Tyrese Maxey on a frequent basis. And you could just look at that Raptors series. I mean, he hit 38 in the first game. And I think he had 33 in the second one, maybe at 30. I can't remember what he had in the second game. But the way, he shoots the basketball, and he has developed this, meme mug to the crowd or to the opposing bench or whatever it is. But, he's pulling up and shooting these cannon type of threes. He's, stepping back into these threes. And then, you're like, it's just awesome. Like, his jump shot is just so cold blooded. And, we're treated to that and we enjoy it. And then Donovan Mitchell comes in last night doing pretty similar stuff. Particularly, there in the second half in crunch time, just like, wow, like there are levels to this, and Tyrese Maxey is definitely on that level, but he is not alone at that level of being able to shoot the basketball like that, because Donovan Mitchell was doing some very uncanny, unorthodox, amazing things last night shooting the ball.
Seriously, yeah. I mean, Mitchell and Garland for me are always a treat to watch in person because yeah, they have very unique talents. Maxey often talks about like learning the ability to manipulate the game. Those two guys both stand out to me with the incredible number of tricks that really do seem to like flummox defenders and just leave them very unsure of what to expect. Will say Donovan Mitchell had a play last night that sure didn't look legal in real time. Maybe did a little bit of an up and down on one of those jump fakes, but ended up working out for him. But yeah, no, he had a fantastic game. Not too far from a triple double, nearly 40 points. Darius Garland did get hurt, so he'll be out for the second leg of this one, which obviously works in the Sixers' favor. But yeah, Cleveland, has struggled for consistency this year, but there's still a lot of talent there, and still a lot of problems that they posed for the Sixers. I mean, the Sixers were pretty much inferior across the board. Like they really struggled to just finish possessions and grab rebounds, to generate clean shots. Like, not much to like from that game last night. So a lot that they can certainly improve on for the second leg of this one.
Listen, I mean, you could say that delayed, that fake or whatever you want to call it, that Donovan Mitchell does. Like the Knicks fans were screaming that same thing in that Cavs game up in the Garden, where he hit those ridiculous shots to bring them within a hair of winning that game. He had a crazy near half court shot that three, and kind of did that same, one leg down. I mean, give credit to the refs for not calling it, but maybe they should. I don't know, but all the same, he has done that. We've seen it before. Is all I'm trying to say. So,
Yep, I agree.
but all the same, Noah, 6-game homestand, as you mentioned, 22-17 are these Sixers. Let's try to clear something up. It's pretty tight Eastern Conference, as I said. Only a half game at the time of this podcast separates the Sixers in 5th place from the 8th place Heat. But the Sixers are garnering a lot of attention and fervor around the NBA. Last night's game, notwithstanding, for their ability to maybe compete for the Eastern Conference Championship. And when you look at the numbers, their numbers seem to be pretty middle of the road in a lot of ways, but they do have Embiid, George, and Maxey, which can change that dynamic on any given night. But should Sixers fans be buying into the idea that this is a team that can compete for the Eastern Conference Championship, like some around the NBA have said or have latched onto? Or is that a little bit of fool's gold? What are you seeing, Noah, when it comes to the potential for this team, where they actually are, reality of the squad, so on and so forth?
I do think the potential is higher than I expected going into the year because, number one, Tyrese Maxey is a potential first-team All-NBA guy, and number two, VJ Edgecombe is a potential Rookie of the Year, certainly one of the best rookies in the game, and also Joel Embiid has played very well his last 10, 12 games and been pretty healthy for that stretch. So I would still fall back on, yes, there's the ability to contend if Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey are all on the floor together. But my level of confidence that that happens, I don't think has dramatically elevated. I think it's been encouraging from Embiid the last month or two. I think we've seen more and more signs that he's playing with little hesitation physically, even dove into the stands last night, threw himself into the second or third row, wasn't worried
Right.
about his knee or anything. He admitted afterward, maybe that was a little bit stupid, but he felt it was
Luckily, that poor woman, there was a poor woman that was sitting
yeah.
right there. I think, was that seat empty next to her? Is that why? Or did she just get out of the way in a hurry?
I think there was a little bit of a dodge, but certainly
Okay.
some impact in the crowd was inevitable when 280 pounds is flinging himself in there. But yeah, no one was badly hurt, Joel Embiid included, so everyone was happy
Correct.
about that. But yeah, as far as their contention aspirations, I don't think they're outlandish. I think this looks like a better team than most would have thought going into the year. I think they've certainly been better defensively than I anticipated on most nights. I think there's some positives in terms of the depth. Obviously, Dominic Barlow and Jabari Walker have been very high quality two-way players. And yeah, still some wild cards if we're looking at Kelly Oubre Jr., Jared McCain, players trying to regain rhythm and confidence after returning from injury. And Trendon Watford as well. You can throw him into that mix. So no, I think it seems correct that people are taking notice of the Sixers, but I would also say it's still broadly a similar situation to the one they entered the year in, where many things need to go right for them to win the Eastern Conference Championship. Health is first and foremost. And if you're skeptical of their ability to remain sufficiently healthy, that is entirely fair.
For sure. Speaking of that, surprisingly, in between this home and home with the Cavs, or series, let's say mini series, it's not really home and home because there is no Cavs home portion of it. This is all Sixers home in the middle of this 6-game homestand. But can you give us the latest from practice? I was surprised to see that they would be going in between these two games, particularly with the back-to-back coming up. But I guess Nick Nurse figured this was the only real opportunity he would get to get them out on the floor. But can you give us any clarity from practice on Dominic Barlow or anything else you gleaned from the Sixers practice facility today?
Yeah, Dominic Barlow seems to have dodged a bullet here. I mean, it was a scary play last night. It was down for a couple minutes after
Yeah, he
falling
goes
off.
up. Evan Mobley blocks his shot and kind of meets him. He kind of falls on his tailbone and stayed down. Not to interrupt you, but please
Yeah,
continue.
no, that's the gist of what happened, and just the amount of time he was down and the obvious pain was certainly worrisome. But he's questionable, which I think is better than anyone could have hoped. Yeah, Nick Nurse even told reporters they didn't think it was necessary to get an MRI. He had X-rays the night prior that were negative and was feeling better today. So that's very very good news, I think, for the Sixers. Barlow has remained a deserved starter for this team, and Joel Embiid, Paul George, both probable. So looks like there's a decent chance the Sixers will again be at full strength to begin this game, which I think is significant. And as noted, Cleveland won't have Darius Garland. They won't have Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, Max Strus. So they're down 4 players. So yeah, I think the Sixers are eager to show that was a fluky performance. I think they know they need to come out with a lot better energy and focus. Nurse even said last night, like, this is a good test for us. So I think that's definitely the vibe among the team. They're glad they have another chance to get back out there against an opponent who crushed them in the first leg of this one.
Okay, so they dropped the first game in the homestand. Another game with the Cavs, Pacers, Suns, Rockets, Knicks here on this homestand. We had those 2 frustrating OT losses, the Nuggets and the Raptors. But what are you thinking with the remaining 5 games of this homestand? Can it be a 4-1 trip, 3-2? What are you thinking there?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I think the final game of that one stands out to me as very hard to win, because I imagine
Yeah.
the New York Knicks won't want to yet again lose to the Sixers after dropping both of the home ones.
And a
Um,
back-to-back with the Pacers and Suns. So just for folks who
mhm,
aren't aware. Yeah.
right, right. So, yeah, I think the hope internally will be to find a way to have an above 500 homestand, but that looks difficult to me. I
Hmm.
think I think it is helpful that, as we said, they're in a good spot right now health wise. So not a big deal if and when Joel Embiid, Paul George get a game or 2 off, and you would
Right.
assume both will not play both legs of the back to back. But yeah, I think there's some difficult opponents in that mix. Houston's another difficult one. So yeah, I think they'll be shooting for a 4-2 homestand, but they've dug themselves a little mini hole with how they started it out.
Yeah, I almost would be happy with a 3-3 homestand, just a status quo. You kind of don't lose any ground, don't really gain any ground, but you don't give up your position as it stands. So, uh, hopefully those 3 wins could come against those Eastern Conference teams, but all the same, it might not be a favorable homestand considering, the opponents that are here. And even though the Pacers are having a subpar season, they still are going to come and, pack their lunch pail and hard hat and, go to work here against the 76ers. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out, and you just hope that they don't shoot themselves in the foot most of all, and uncanny turnovers. It's kind of the way the game started. I think Embiid had 5 turnovers or whatever in the early going, so it just really just you hope it's not indicative of how they'll play, or what's to come here with the team. But it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. But that's why we watch, right? That's why we tune in and see just who brings the competitiveness on any given night. We will talk more Joel Embiid because there is more to get to with him, particularly like Noah said, with him showing up each and every night and the amount of games that he's played most recently and how he's looked out there. Um, let's pay some bills and show some love to our title sponsor, Wilmington University. We wouldn't be where we are without them. Achieve your academic goals and pursue your dream career at Wilmington University. Your dream is our mission. Learn more at wilmu.edu. Well, how about it, Noah? We got Paul George reaching a scoring plateau and at 19,000 points, I believe it was. And then here we are with Joel Embiid cracking 13,000, all in a Sixers uniform. So that makes that even more significant here. He is seventh all time on the Sixers scoring list with 13,000 points plus. He has six Hall of Famers in front of him as it stands. Not saying Joel Embiid will be in the Hall of Fame, but uh, he's in some favorable conversations. And he, by season's end, he could be fifth on that list, the way the numbers look. Um, is it time to reflect on Joel Embiid's career to this point to see, what people have gotten to enjoy from the big fella? I mean, over the last 10 games, last night's game, not included, 28 points, 8 rebounds, 52% from the floor. Part of the reason folks have been saying, man, maybe the Sixers team can contend because he's been looking like himself, the point per minute type of player that we've come to maybe underappreciate in some aspects over the past couple of years. But what are you thinking when it comes to Embiid currently, and maybe you can reflect on how things have gone for his career to this point?
Yeah, I don't mind saying he's a future Hall of Famer. For me,
Okay.
he's done enough. No question about it.
Mhm.
Seven-time All-Star already, MVP, two-time scoring champion, face of the franchise for over a decade. Sure, there's been many notable disappointments, many of them related to health. No brainer, Hall of Famer for me.
But
And yeah, I get that there's another side of the case, but that's where I would stand on it. And yeah,
mhm.
milestone, never a bad time to reflect on just how dominant he's been. And you see he's piled up those points, as you said, oftentimes not playing for fourth quarters or just doing it in these ludicrously easy looking ways. And yeah, you hear him, you hear Nick Nurse, they still say he's nowhere near his top level. I would agree with that, but yeah, I would also say there's been a really significant uptick in the past 10 games or so, and the stats absolutely reflect that. And I think a lot of it is his defense too. Like there's more instances in which he's willing to rise high for a block or to try to chase someone down. Definitely fewer moments where it feels like he's getting picked on for lack of mobility. So I think that's been a real plus as of late with his play. And yeah, he has high standards for himself because he knows what he's capable of. But he's been getting closer in my eyes, and certainly still has moments where he's sloppy or he's a little out of sync with his teammates or whatever. But for the most part, he's been at an all-starish level as of late. I think the stats would reflect that. For me, like probably hasn't played enough to be an all-star this year, but
Mhm.
just the recent play has indeed been of that caliber, and that's a huge deal for the Sixers.
Philadelphia can be a weird place when it comes to our superstars, where we definitely enjoy and laud them when times are going well, when they're at their peak, when they're doing those virtuoso things. But there can also be a heavy hand when they take a turn, for the worse. And Joel's kind of on that bounce back phase right now. So maybe there's been peaks and now there's been valleys, but he's definitely on the upswing for sure of returning to form. And Philadelphia can have a way of maybe not appreciating those players enough in the moment, but later on, they kind of really give them their due. So I really see Embiid maybe being that type of figure where maybe because he didn't take them all the way to the promised land or didn't quite get over the hump, that he's not as appreciated as maybe he should be, which seems very weird to say, but it's just Philadelphia can be a weird place in that regard. But you can go down the list of guys like Claude Giroux, I think, for the Flyers, who maybe they didn't appreciate him as much when he was here, and he leaves and goes to Ottawa, and then maybe when he retires, he'll be received with a lot more fanfare. Another player that just got away, Ranger Suarez, who actually, you know, really was ridiculous in the playoffs and was never the guy who wasn't willing to step up and do what was necessary. But he's no longer a Philadelphia player. I think they'll appreciate him even more as the type of player and impact that he had with this team. And there's a bunch of other names you could throw out there or whatnot, but Embiid, a very interesting case. It's so many things you could point to with his diet and how that worked out, the initial injury and the injuries that were subsequent from that slowed him down or stopped him from reaching his peak quicker or for a longer sustained period of time. So, but listen, I made a social media post, and over time there's times we delete and purge and change stuff. But when he went for 70 against Wemby, I called him a unicorn, and I was just so impressed by the way he balled out on that night. And I still reflect on that and still don't think it gets the just due that it deserves. Because, on that night, I remember when they told Kevin Durant about it, he had this ridiculous reaction, like 70? Like 70? Like he just, it was just like the North Star. It was like seeing like Orion or something. It's just like, really? Like, I can't believe that just so I had that same type of feeling. And I think it can be a weird place in Philly when it comes to our relationships to our superstars and our athletes and things like that. But yeah, man, I've enjoyed the journey of Joel Embiid, and I think the highs and lows are part of it, the ins and outs, and he's, people kind of forget, when the time when he was, playing tennis in South Philly late at night and going on South Street and like dunking on people. And that what I'm saying? That all kind of developed, what we had and what we expected from him. And I don't know if many players have come and touched the fan base in that way and impacted them in that way. But I'm kind of rambling. But yeah, man, I have fond feelings about Joel Embiid and the fact that we were so starved for a superstar, and then he ends up being that. So 13,000 points, not too shabby, not too shabby.
Not too
But
shabby.
yeah, go ahead.
No, and like I think you're spot on. Like he, despite perhaps not fulfilling some people's vision of what he could be or whatever, he is a superstar and has been for many years now. Was literally crowned as the best player in the sport, and has embraced being a Philadelphia athlete and taken a lot of pride and being a bit of a troll and getting under opponents' skin and trying to sort of play in a way that the city can be proud of and all that. So sure, like flawed person like all of us, but
We all are, exactly.
yeah, all of those qualities I think are absolutely appropriate to highlight when you're sort of reflecting on the big picture of who Joel Embiid is, and also not insignificant that he was, one of the first on the case of the up and coming superstar that is Tyrese Maxey. Labeled him the franchise, and that guy now is climbing up there to perhaps near the heights that Joel Embiid reached at his best.
13,017 points for the big fella. Specifically, exactly, Billy Cunningham, Charles Barkley, Julius Irving, Dolph Schayes, Allen Iverson, and Hal Greer in front of him. Charles Barkley is at 14,184 points. So that definitely seems attainable here with we're about at the halfway point of the season, but definitely seems attainable for him to maybe reach that milestone later this year. He's obviously played more games than he did last year, and we are happy about that. So let's hope the Sixers continue to be, competing in this vein, because they're going to have to really continue to figure out ways to win here if they're going to survive in this Eastern Conference where it is tightly packed there, as I mentioned. Speaking of that, Noah, I just wanted to put it out there, kind of set the tone. The NBA trade deadline will be here next month. The Sixers have $20 million, more than $20 million in expiring contracts. There are some big names who could be traded, like Ja Morant, possibly LaMelo Ball, maybe Zion Williamson, what have you. what kind of business do you think the Sixers will be in here with how this team has been? They've obviously catapulted themselves from the bottom of the NBA in 3-point shooting up to the middle of the pack, which is a big change for this team. Do you think there's an area they might target or players who they might be willing to most likely get rid of when it comes to some of these expiring deals like Kelly Oubre or maybe Quentin Grimes or what have you? Do you have any inclinations or thoughts in that regard? Just setting the tone, not committing you to any thoughts or perspectives, but that is going to be something that's going to develop here over the next 30 days or so. I wanted to kind of get ahead of it.
Yeah, I mean, the more I look at the team, I think just like the old-fashioned, reliable bench wing would be awfully nice to have here. Last night, with the Sixers at full strength, Justin Edwards again doesn't play, and you just look at the Sixers rotation. I think it would be helpful to have an all 3-and-D sorta option there to turn to. I think, they have good reason to feel optimistic about the core of the team in terms of the 3 stars and VJ Edgecombe. And yeah, I think it's going to be intriguing because they probably will be able to give themselves more flexibility via eventually converting Dominic Barlow and Jabari Walker. And in addition,
Mhm.
in addition to that, they already have an open roster spot, right? So definitely should be viable to tinker a lot with the depth of the team. And I think, yeah, wing just really sticks out to me as an area where that's super logical to do. And then I think the backup center picture is a little fascinating as well. I think, of course, like Adembona and Andre Drummond have each done some good things this year. Andre Drummond is one of those expirings, that very well may be thrown in there in a trade package. Has certainly heard his name in trade rumors this past offseason as well. So yeah, if there's a scenario where Andre Drummond, for instance, is dealt, do the Sixers want a little more insurance there at backup center so they're not, too reliant on a Dembona? That would also seem sensible to me. But yeah, Daryl Morey will, I'm sure, be having all the calls with both the depth options as well as some of the splashier names. I'm sure he'll see if he can, be involved as a third or fourth team if there's some superstar multi-team deal unfolding. And yeah, I'm sure the Sixers will be active, but my hunch is that Daryl Morey will be quite pleased with what he's seen thus far, and also
Mhm.
feeling pretty good about the fact that the Sixers this time around are actually quite healthy, and therefore perhaps there is the opportunity to really build some reps here with the current version of the team and to really see what they've got here. So yeah, for me would be a bit surprising to see trades that like dramatically alter the team that we've seen thus far. But I'm also sure Maury will be very determined to see if there's ways to improve this group, and I imagine there will be options on the table there.
Yeah, definitely. And I would be shocked if there wasn't some type of maneuvering or something to position them for next season, to shed some salary, to take advantage of some of these guys who could just walk away at the end of the year. And you mentioned Andre Drummond, and I'm not sure if it was part and parcel of the way he shot the basketball during the Cavs game or what exactly it was, but after that blowout loss, he probably was on the court and shot 100 3-pointers. I mean, I'm not lying. I mean, he was out there. Uh, there was a CYO game, it seemed like, after he got off the court and they kind of adjusted the rims and all that stuff that they do after the game. But bro, he was working around the horn in the corner, top of the key, and he was definitely splashing a lot of shots. But I'm just information. He was out there probably. I would say shot 100 3-pointers out there. Just catch and shoot, catch and shoot, catch and shoot. And we know that's definitely been something he's added to his game this season and has been helpful for the team for sure, because it's been unexpected. He's been open, he's been making them, and it definitely has been surprising. But just, I don't know if, it was just something that was annoying him or weighing on him about how he played and the way he shot the basketball or what, but he was out there getting after it after the game was over yesterday. So we'll see how that plays out as this next Cavs games comes to play on Friday. But get out to the arena, folks. This is it. A 6-game homestand, some good competition. The Sixers need some wins. They could use your support. We will be here every step of the way with the Sixers Talk podcast. And of course, please check out Noah Levick's work on NBC Sports Philadelphia.com, where he is always dropping knowledge and in the know about what's going on with this team. We appreciate you listening and watching here on the Sixers Talk podcast. For Noah Levick and Spencer McKercher, I'm Danny Pommells. Thanks for listening and watching. We'll see you next time.